Wait, you quit. My boss, Jessica Parker, was not only great at her job but also beautiful, and I secretly admired her. She suddenly left the company. Why, though? From my perspective, she was performing well, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Amidst all this, I happened to run into her again at a bar. Her face turned red as she confessed, actually, revealing a certain secret. I couldn't hold back anymore and expressed my long-kept feelings to her. Hey, would you like to, with me? She looked puzzled but then showed me a shy smile. However, I had no idea at that time that this would lead to a series of shocking truths being unveiled, dragging the company into a massive turmoil. My name is Michael Thompson, 30 years old. I'm in my 6th year at Northern Sky Corp, a major trading company. Even though I'm considered mid-level now, I'm still seen as the lovable goof by my coworkers, making my way through work as a 30-something. There's someone I've quietly harbored feelings for a long time. Her name is Jessica Parker, 35 years old. Back in my greenhorn days, she was my mentor, teaching me the ins and outs of the job, and now she's my supervisor in the same department. Her black hair, just touching her shoulders, is always softly permed, and her long bangs reveal her sharp, dignified eyes. Yet, her radiant smile during our brief chats is genuinely adorable, always making my heart flutter. Thompson, you're really good at making conversation. You always make me laugh. Really. I don't think I'm saying anything that funny, but with that kind of talk, becoming #1 in our company is just a matter of time. I wish that would happen. It seems my colleagues have also taken notice of my efforts, nodding in agreement. Recently, you've been quickly getting stronger, she says with a slightly teasing yet pleased look. No, I just did everything as you taught me, Parker. Don't be so modest. With that, she swept her hair back, the scent of her shampoo tickling my heart irresistibly. Maybe if you top the sales charts next time, I should give you a reward. A reward? Her mischievous expression hinted at something devilish. What kind of reward? Look forward to it. Whispering this in my ear with a smile, she then left for the next meeting. Just the two of us. Whoa, alright, I'm gonna give it my all. Inspired by the word reward, I worked on my sales rounds as if my rear was on fire. You've been doing well lately, hadn't you? I was getting the hang of sales visits, slowly building trust with clients. Despite her busy schedule, Parker always found a moment to care and occasionally speak to me. No, it's just that everyone at the clients has been really kind to me. You're as serious as ever. Then, cutting through our pleasant chat, you two seem to be having quite a good time, aren't you? Mr. Simmons, Director John Simmons, entered the conversation with a grin on his face. Even I, a man, could not help but admire her youthful appearance and slender height, which made it hard to believe that she was over 40. We were just talking about work. Jessica's face stiffened as she firmly responded, a stark contrast to her previously gentle expression. Well, no need to look so stern. I get it. Then, Simmons continued, placing a hand on her shoulder. As long as we have excellent employees like Miss Parker, our sales department is solid. Thank you. Despite the high praise, Jessica's expression didn't lighten. The recent project succeeded because you were a part of it. No, it wasn't just me. Other employees in different departments worked hard together. It wasn't just my effort. You don't need to downplay yourself so much. Could you remove your hand from my shoulder? Taken aback, Simmons awkwardly withdrew his hand. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before you surpass me. I felt I had to respond with a polite laugh, but the atmosphere remained awkward. Afterward, we returned to work as if nothing had happened, but the air didn't change. A few hours later, wanting to clear the awkwardness, I spoke to Parker. Wow, that was a surprise when Mr. Simmons suddenly showed up. Huh? Yes, it was. She seemed a bit tired but reassured me with her unchanged smile, so I continued talking. Mr. Simmons really seems to support you a lot, Parker. Yeah. Especially since you are already out of my league. If you get promoted further, I won't be able to talk to you so casually. Out of your league. That's a rather lonely thing to say. No, I mean, you're my superior after all. Right. I am your superior, aren't I? Aren't you? Never mind. We should head home soon. or it'll take a toll on us. Yes. Despite her usual bright demeanor, there was something rigid about her that made me incredibly uneasy. Despite everything, my days of visiting clients and wearing down my shoe soles continued unchanged. And finally, I managed to become the #1 in sales performance. But at such a time, there was no Jessica Parker to share the joy with a smile. I had felt something was off for a while. Ever since the interaction with Simmons, I sometimes saw Parker looking downcast. But whenever I spoke to her, she would dispel such notions with a smile, not giving me a chance to ask what was wrong. The frustration grew as work kept us busy. Then came Monday at the start of a new week. I arrived at the office as usual, started up my computer, and got down to work, but Parker's presence was nowhere to be seen. Upon asking a colleague, I learned she had taken the day off due to illness. I thought, once she comes back, I'll make sure to talk to her. But 3 days passed, then a week, and as the month was about to change, she still hadn't returned to work. Finally, it was announced that Parker had left the company. Simmons's administrative explanations didn't register with me at all. All I could think about was why. About half a month after Parker left the company, I found myself restless and wandering from bar to bar, despite having worked the next day, thinking to drown whatever in alcohol. Excuse me. I opened the door of a bar marked by a flashy banner that caught my eye. Then, hey, isn't that Thompson? Why are you here? In what seemed like a stroke of fate, Parker was there, waving at me with a drink in hand. Her face flushed and seemingly in good spirits. Long time no see. I sat down next to her, wiping my hands with the provided wet towel. Let's order something. To celebrate our reunion, let's toast. Her playful tone was a departure from our interactions at the office, and I couldn't help but laugh. You seem completely different. Oh, I've always been this way, you know. As we chatted, I took the beer I had ordered and raised it for a toast. After finishing half my beer and the idle conversation began to settle, thinking it was about time for another drink, I decided to broach the subject. It was quite sudden, you leaving the company. She put down her drink and looked down. Sorry, I guess there are various reasons. Trying to dispel the awkwardness, I opened the menu to decide what to order next. However, the atmosphere Jessica created remained unchanged, and as she sullenly downed her drink, she started. Well, it doesn't matter. More importantly, how about you, Thompson? Still the top performer? No, well, you know, I might be considered simple for this, but when the goal I had set my sights on suddenly vanished, so did my motivation, and my sales performance plummeted in no time. Now, I've basically become a total failure. Yeah, she said, looking past my shoulder with a distant gaze, focusing on something, but it didn't seem like she was really seeing it. Maybe I should just get married early and have someone take care of me, you know. Marriage? Surprised by her sudden mention, I almost slipped a fork from my hand. Considering how attractive she is, it wouldn't be surprising if she had someone. I tried to switch gears and change the subject. By the way, Parker, what are you doing for work now? I'm currently living the unemployed life. Unemployed? But why would someone as skilled as you? Well, I just lost the motivation to work, you know. Her childlike explanation unexpectedly made me blurt out. Then, do you want to? With me? With you, Thompson. What do you mean? Sorry, I didn't phrase that well. What I meant was, if you're interested, would you like to work together? Have you heard of Thompson Industries? Her eyes widened in surprise. Heard of it? It's famous in our field. Wait, Thompson. Actually, feeling somewhat embarrassed, I quickly finished the sour drink left in my glass. The truth is, my family owns a company called Thompson Industries, a competitor to Northern Sky Corp. It might sound boastful coming from me, but it's a fairly large company with a decent reputation. However, I've been feeling disillusioned with everything related to my family's situation. Since my childhood, I've had an unusual knack for reading the room. Having been put through various kinds of lessons, I managed to excel not only in academics but also in sports and arts without much difficulty. I maintained a perfect distance with friends and was quite popular with girls, I think. Following my parents' wishes, I took the entrance exams for the schools they chose, devoted myself to extracurricular activities, and maintained decent grades. thinking I was enjoying the ideal youth. At this point, anyone might start to feel a bit too confident. In college, I had already begun to take life for granted, thinking it was all a piece of cake. I chose an easy major, breezed through lectures, and focused all my efforts on part-time jobs and club activities. I probably fell into what people call the fully satisfied category. I changed my hair color every week. My earlobes were filled with piercings. I wore the latest fashions, and I was always seen with different girls. Yet, for some reason, I occasionally felt a gust of emptiness passing through me. I experienced a typical rebellious phase during adolescence, particularly loathing my father. The idea of inheriting the company he ran and leading a life without any excitement was out of the question. But what did I want to do? Which company did I want to join? And what did I want to achieve? What did I really want to be? Hey, Michael, how long are you going to keep drifting aimlessly? Get it together. Leave me alone. As the new year of my junior year of college passed, it was high time to seriously think about my future, but I was still unsure. My parents, especially my father, must have been quite concerned about me. It's about time for job hunting, isn't it? When are you going to get serious? Shut up. It's none of your business. My dad always criticized my flashy appearance and meddled in my future plans. I couldn't stand it. Now I understand how precious that was, painfully so. But back then, I didn't feel an ounce of gratitude. He probably wanted me to take over his company. To counter that expectation, I snapped at him. Just so you know, I have no intention of living a life like yours. That's your choice. But there's one thing I have to say. What? Half listening and not even looking at him, I was disinterested. You have no idea how harsh society can be. Just remember this. Spit it out already. Enter society. That's it. I couldn't help but snort in disbelief. But without concern, he continued, you'll understand what I'm saying eventually. Just get into any company. Work like everyone else. That's all. I didn't say anything, just twirled my blue hair. I don't want you to be an ignorant fool. But all I could think about were potential destinations for my graduation trip. Pressured by those around me, I reluctantly started job hunting. To me, it felt like a waste of time. But with no particular preferences, I decided to interview with companies in the same industry as my dad's, looking for something that seemed manageable. After several interviews and rejection messages, I surprisingly received an offer from the major corporation, Northern Sky Corp. Get out into the world. I thought his advice meant just getting into a company was enough. Once I was in, I thought I was set. All I considered was what to spend my first paycheck on and whether any cute girls would join with my cohort. However, what awaited me at the company was nothing short of hell for me. Starting with business matters, being hammered by coworkers as if possessing common sense and general knowledge was a given. Assigned to the General Affairs Department, I had to memorize all the executives' names, attend incomprehensible meetings, and just take minutes from a corner of the room. Not knowing how to properly handle phone calls, calling people in the company by their first names without honorifics, I embarrassed myself countless times. Feeling humiliated while sorting the storeroom with female coworkers, I wondered, isn't a man supposed to be given significant tasks unconditionally? The smooth sailing days since my student life had come to an end. Struggling with unfamiliar tasks and unable to shake off my student mentality, I felt extremely tired, as if I had to grow up 3 steps at once. But it was Parker, who was sometimes strict but always kind and encouraging, that made a difference for me. It's okay. No one's perfect from the start. Take your time, even if it's slow. At least you're growing more than yesterday. Every time I failed and felt down, she kindly spoke to me, and gradually her presence became my motivation to persevere. Looking back, I wish I could kick my carefree, flashy self from my student days. I never thought I'd be such a failure. But it's precisely because of that I've found the joy of working hard now. I think I can somewhat understand what my dad was talking about now. Just a little bit, though. That's still amazing. But it was you who taught me all that, including this understanding. Because of you, I was able to face my job and work tirelessly, even after being transferred to the sales department. Thanks to that, I felt a strong desire to work at my father's company. Not just because I'm his son, but because I genuinely wanted to work with him. So, I said this, looking earnestly at her. If it's okay with you, would you like to work together at Thompson Industries? Thompson. She looked down, contemplating, and was silent for a moment. Had I imposed a burden on her? 6 months ago, after announcing my resignation from my current company, I immediately took the mid-career recruitment exam for Thompson Industries and was fortunate to join. Since then, I've been thinking, with Parker's abilities, our company could grow even more. It's a waste for someone with your skills not to use them. I want to work with you again. I'm really flattered by that sentiment. But could you give me a little time? I nodded firmly. After hastily finishing my handovers and taking my accumulated paid leaves, I felt incredibly liberated. Because, nice to meet you, your son has been a great help to us at the previous company. Though I may be unaccustomed to some things here, I hope to contribute a bit as well. It's us who should be saying that. I've heard about you from Michael. Having you with us is reassuring. Thank you so much. And to think, I never imagined he would bring such a beautiful and capable woman here. I'd even want her as a daughter-in-law if possible. How about it? Dad said with a faint smile. Dad, what are you saying? That's rude to her. Despite appearing slightly haggard, seeing him maintain his untroubled smile in the face of potentially problematic statements reassured me. Assigned again to the sales department, Parker and I immediately resumed developing new clients, continuing our sales rounds day after day. Although we were both in sales, the sectors we dealt with varied. I mainly handled transactions with companies in the same industry, while she was assigned to interact with a bit more specialized firms. So, it was completely unexpected when such a story surfaced. It began with a conversation from a long-serving part-time female employee. Michael, could I have a moment? Being called by my first name by someone who has known me since I was a child is a bit embarrassing. What's up? It's about you and the new female employee. You mean Parker? What about her? I hate to bring this up, but are you sure she's trustworthy? Did something happen? I hope I'm wrong, but what she shared with me was shockingly unexpected. It happened a week ago. That day, she had made plans to catch up with a friend for drinks. And when she entered the designated tavern, she noticed Parker sitting with an older middle-aged man. Moreover, something about their atmosphere seemed suspicious. She couldn't help but glance over occasionally and realized, with a start, that the man looked familiar. He seemed to be someone from a competing company, and I ended up overhearing their conversation. I couldn't catch the specifics, but I clearly heard the man's name. What was the name? Simmons. Simmons, as in, the director. Exactly, from Northern Sky Corp, your former boss, right? Well, but that person, I've heard not so good things about him. Is something wrong? It's not possible. She's not leaking our information, is she? Could it be? Had they sent Parker as a spy? Indeed, Simmons had always seemed quite close to her, showing complete trust in her. And being one of his subordinates, she couldn't just disregard his orders. Simmons is well known, yeah. I've even met him once when I delivered some packages, and if my memory serves me right, that man was definitely Simmons. Even as a part-time employee, having worked for many years, she knows more about the employees of competing companies than I do. The president and even you seem to trust him a lot, but you better be careful. Who should I trust? What should I believe? A week after that conversation, as I was plowing through a pile of reports, it was nearly midnight. Suddenly, I heard some noise from the next warehouse. Someone seemed to be working. Who's there? Thompson. Good evening. Amidst the dust, she was rifling through the contents of cardboard boxes without minding her disheveled hair. Parker, what are you doing here so late? Oh, there's something bothering me about the project I'm working on. With that, she showed me a compilation of company histories published long ago. The conversation with the long-serving part-time employee flashed through my mind. I was filled with the urge to confront her about that incident. Parker, I'm really grateful to you, Thompson. She suddenly started, cutting off my words. I think you might have realized, but I never found my work enjoyable at the company. The unreasonable quotas, being forced to prioritize Simmons's demands over everything else, it was truly difficult. Parker looked down, her profile showing a depth of anguish I'd never seen before. But thanks to you, Thompson, I've found genuine joy in my work here. So much so that going home feels like a waste. For the first time, I'm truly happy about this, and it makes me want to strive even harder. Parker. Sorry, I stopped working. I'm done now, so I'll be heading home. Saying this, she slipped past me, hiding her tear-stained face, and left. As I watched her retreating figure, I chided myself for even momentarily doubting her. Right, there's no way Parker would do something like that. Parker. What? I called out to her as she turned around. Please, don't overdo it. With a smile that bloomed like a flower, she waved her hand and walked away. On a day when the season changed and the night air felt cool, I was walking home late after overtime. The streets empty. Is that Parker? Looking closely, she seemed to be walking with a man, a silhouette I recognized from somewhere. Feeling uneasy, I decided to follow them. Suddenly, the man pulled her arm. Stop it, please. Come on, it's fine. Shocked by the volume of his voice, loud enough for me to hear, I rushed towards them. Hey, she clearly doesn't like it. You. Sure enough, it was Simmons, holding Parker's arm against her will, trying to drag her into the neon-lit streets. Thompson, why are you here? Surprised yet seemingly relieved to see me, Parker showed a reassured expression. I just happened to see you, and I got a bad feeling, so I followed you. More importantly, I directed a sharp glare at Simmons. What were you trying to do to her? Simmons flinched but brazenly responded. I was merely asking her to come back, that's all. Mr. Simmons, I have no intention of returning. Not at all. Hey, Thompson, talk some sense into her. Tell her to come back to Northern Sky Corp. She'll listen if it's you asking. Mr. Simmons, what are you saying? She clearly doesn't want to. Stating that firmly seemed to surprise Simmons, who scoffed. You're acting quite the knight, aren't you? Do you know why she left us? Why she left? Please, let's not talk about this. Ignoring her plea, Simmons continued. Simmons, who had harbored feelings for her despite having a family, had been pressuring her for a relationship. She of course refused, and tried to keep her distance. Enraged by this, Simmons decided to redirect his anger towards me, whom Parker had been closest to at the time. I was furious. Every time I saw you two talking amiably, it felt like my pride was being trampled. But I later learned that around that time, a significant mistake had occurred at the company, potentially a major setback. Fortunately, it was resolved quietly by the upper management before it escalated, but there was a big debate about who was responsible. That's when Simmons decided to pin the blame on me. Taking advantage of her strong sense of justice, he planned to threaten her into compliance by saying if she didn't want a subordinate's mistake exposed, she'd have to listen to him. However, she chose to leave the company. I didn't want to involve an innocent subordinate, that's all. I was utterly shocked to learn of such events, though unaware, being involved in such a terrifying situation. But Simmons, unrepentant, said, "Oh, quite the caring boss, aren't we? Or are you two actually an item?" Seeing Simmons smirking made my anger boil. Mr. Simmons, please stop. Do you not realize what you're doing? That's a criminal act. So what? You gonna sue me? His once handsome features now seemed cold and intimidating, but his attempts to intimidate me with his sharp gaze didn't make me flinch. However, Simmons's mouth knew no bounds. Who do you think you are? I'm the top salesperson at the major trading company, Northern Sky Corp. Everyone in our industry knows me. Between what they'll believe about me and what they'll believe about a pretty but incompetent you, who do you think they'll trust? Fueled by Simmons's threatening words, I clenched my fist before taking Parker's hand. Please, stay away from her from now on. Saying this, I led her away from the scene. Thompson, how far are we going to walk? I had been gripping her arm tightly, walking for quite some time. Wait. She forcefully shook off my grip. It was as if a switch had been flipped, and I blurted out loudly. Even if it was a setup, protecting me was crazy. Why would you do such a thing? Because it's my job as a superior to take care of a subordinate. But still, through working with various subordinates, you seem to have given up on your own life. I wanted to show you how fun working can be. And every time you achieved something, your expression visibly changed. And yet, for such a man, Parker, I didn't want your potential to be crushed because of such a trivial man. That's why. Hearing her say that, I found myself saying, "Let me protect you this time." This time, I'll be the one to protect you. Thompson, I've always cared about you. Does that mean I'm serious? Is it a bother? It's not that it's bothersome, but I'm just surprised. If it's a bother, I'll completely give up. But just this once, I want to protect you. That's... Blushing, she looked at me after saying that, and I couldn't help but gently embrace her. Several weeks had passed. I was about to step onto the biggest stage of my life. The Northern Sky Corp sign I hadn't seen in a while now seemed sinister to me. "Excuse me, you actually came. I thought you'd chicken out and run away." Laughing through his nose, Simmons sneered. "I've decided not to run away from important matters." I glared at Simmons with eyes mixed with hatred and anger. "So, you have business to discuss?" "Yes, right to the point, Mr. Simmons." Holding various emotions. "Unfortunately, we will have to terminate our contract this time," I stated firmly. But Simmons, unfazed, laughed through his nose. "Losing the contract will be your problem, won't it?" However, I raised my head, trying to remain calm. "We'll see about that." "Quite confident, aren't we?" "Yes, because we haven't done anything shady." Suddenly, the conference room door opened, and an employee, presumably a subordinate, rushed in. "Mr. Simmons." "What?" "I'm in the middle of an important discussion. Just now, we got a call from Pacific Trading wanting to terminate their deal with us." "Why all of a sudden?" "It seems to involve you, Mr. Simmons." Before the conversation could finish, another breathless employee entered. "Mr. Simmons, the sales representative from Pacific Corp insists on speaking with you immediately." One by one, Simmons' subordinates entered the room, their anxious demeanor unmistakable. With a glare, Simmons accused me. "You must have spread something." "What do you mean?" "Could it be about that incident?" Simmons confronted me, his face turning pale. But I deliberately avoided touching on the subject, grabbed my bag, and stood up from the chair. "Well then, I'll be leaving. It seems like you're quite busy, so I won't intrude any further." Wait, please." "What is it?" "I'm begging you, help me out. I'll double whatever you're asking. Let's make a deal again." "Excuse me, Thompson." It was likely that after this, he would start receiving cancellation notices from other clients as well. I left the conference room feeling somewhat refreshed, knowing Northern Sky Corp would soon face a series of deal cancellations and potentially bankruptcy. Furthermore, it was revealed that all these were due to Simmons' actions, leading to his dismissal from Northern Sky Corp. It all started from Parker's painful outcry. I didn't want Thompson to know about this, but just his presence makes me tremble now. I can't bear it anymore. The day she was persistently pursued by Simmons, she confided in me her struggles. I also listened to all the data she had secretly recorded. Learning about Simmons' appalling other side, I was outraged. Unforgivable. Then, I remembered a certain conversation and said to her, looking straight into her eyes, "Can I handle this matter?" "What?" Confused, she listened to my plan and finally nodded. I had been speaking with the long-serving part-timer when it occurred to me. I couldn't get that thing she mentioned about Simmons out of my head. "What's the reputation of Mr. Simmons like?" Frowning, she informed me about Simmons' dreadful other side. "It's just what I've heard, so I can't say for sure, but apparently, he has a terrible way with women. No matter if it's someone within the company or a client, it doesn't matter to him. Despite being married with a family, he seems to use his position as a top salesman to his advantage to get close to them. It seems Simmons repeatedly harassed for relationships, and when it came to employees of client companies, he would threaten to reveal their company's confidential information unless they complied. Being in sales, you hear a lot of information, good and bad. Simmons exploited this for his desires. I was outraged. If he remained unchecked, more victims would emerge. Thus, I disclosed everything Simmons had done to Parker to my father, the CEO, and pleaded to make Simmons' actions public. Simmons' competence in the industry was unparalleled, and my father was well aware of his influence. But, believing my story, my father assured me, "This is a presidential order. I'll take all responsibility for what happens due to this matter." So, I proceeded with my investigation. I visited major clients and heard stories from all employees who had interactions with Simmons. My sincerity must have come through, as I was also able to hear from female employees who had been involved in his misconduct. Indeed, everything was as the long-serving part-time employee had described. One of the victims had secretly recorded all of Simmons's actions, and I humbly asked if they could entrust me with those recordings. Initially hesitant, I assured her that her secret was safe with me, and ultimately, she trusted me and handed over the data. Perhaps it was luck on my side, but there were a few other employees from different companies who came forward to share their experiences of similar misconduct. Next, I visited Simmons's wife. She had noticed the presence of other women around her husband, but had not realized the extent of his actions. Honestly, I hadn't planned on revealing everything to her. Seeing their young children made me fear destroying a family. However, she was more understanding than I had imagined. "Mr. Thompson, I appreciate you sharing this with me. I thought I could tolerate some frivolous behavior, but this is criminal." She then handed me all the evidence she had been collecting. "I've decided to settle things on my own. This has allowed me to finally make a decision," she said. "What happened afterward is unknown to me, but I can imagine it led to quite a tumultuous situation." All the evidence gathered was then entrusted to my father, the president. He told me with a troubled expression, "See Saul dealings with Northern Sky Corp." As you might guess, what followed was predictable. The incident with Northern Sky Corp had a significant impact not only on their direct competitors but also on related companies. But we persevered with our sales visits, and our efforts paid off, gaining trust from clients and achieving unprecedented sales. For our achievements, both Parker and I were awarded the CEO's prize. She was swiftly promoted to Sales Department Manager. Surprisingly, "Mr. Thompson, you have a call." The voice of a long-serving part-time employee, now a subordinate, echoed in the department. "Yes, this is Thompson speaking." I had become a section chief, busily managing a challenging project every day. One day, during a brief break, I sat down at a bench by the vending machine. Suddenly, someone sat next to me. "Hard day." "Ah, you too." She greeted me with her carefree smile after a long time. "Hey, do you remember our promise?" "Promise? Really? You forgot?" Teased by her carefree smile, I couldn't help but feel embarrassed. "If you achieve the top sales performance, we'll go out to eat together, remember?" "Oh, right." I vaguely remembered something about a reward, smiling uncontrollably. "Thinking about something nice, aren't you?" "Oh, no, not thinking about anything." Caught in my apparent daydreaming, I was slightly flustered but secretly hoped this would bring us closer. Years have passed since then, but our company continues to perform well, maintaining its success. And today, as well. "Mikey, are you done yet? I told you to stop calling me Mikey at work." "So, Mr. Thompson, how's work going?" "Just Mike is fine." Even long past our scheduled quitting time, we were still buried in work, exchanging these kinds of remarks while rushing to complete a report due today. Spending time together, my feelings for her grew stronger. It seemed she felt the same, prompting me to ask outright, "What do you think of me right now?" And now, Parker, no, Jessica, is not only supporting me in my personal life, but also as my partner. Whether I'm tired or stuck at work, her consistent, carefree smile, reassuring me everything will be okay, has become invaluable to me. And I've made up my mind about something. Once the major project I'm working on is completed, I plan to propose. The final day for this decision is just one day away. As for Simmons, his wife, upon learning of his misdeeds, promptly served him with divorce papers. Naturally, she demanded a substantial amount in alimony and claimed their so-called mansion and all its contents for herself. Ousted from both his home and job, Simmons lost everything and ended up nowhere. According to neighborhood gossip, for weeks after being kicked out, he was spotted almost daily standing in front of the house, silently gazing up at the second floor, which was creepy enough to prompt police visits until he eventually disappeared. When everything's going too smoothly, it's hard to take advice from others seriously. Reminiscing about my reckless, ignorant days makes me feel like I could catch fire from embarrassment. My father was right. Stepping into society was truly beneficial. Though Northern Sky Corp, the company that hired me, is now in dire straits, It taught me a valuable lesson and gave me an irreplaceable encounter. For her sake, who once gave up her career to protect herself, I feel I must work harder than ever. That, I believe, is the only way I can repay her.